Hello again, football fans. Welcome to Done Deal for week 11. I am your host, Chris Dunn. Every single week throughout the rest of the college series and into the RFL season, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of 3 games on the schedule. Sometimes it's going to be easy, sometimes it's going to be hard. 3 games on the schedule that I will give you to go out there and bet. Go out there and put your reload bucks to the test. Basically, give you the opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. So, for week 11, I have a couple games here for you. I know it's a tight schedule. I know that week 11 just got underway the other day. We're going to get right into it starting this weekend, but I have 3 games for you that are an absolute lock. Consider it a done deal. Here we go. Ohio State, minus 6.5 points. Okay. They're playing Texas A&M. Texas A&M hasn't been using their running game. Okay. Duboc has not been getting the ball lately. Last week, 11 carries for 47 yards against Alabama. That was coming off of a bye week. 11 carries for 47 yards. Prior to that, 20 carries for 59 yards against Georgia. What's the trend here? The Texas A&M ground game doesn't do well against high-power user-submitted teams. UGA, 59 yards. Bama, 47 yards. Give me Ohio State covering 6.5 points against Texas A&M. Game number 2, Notre Dame. Look, tough news with Notre Dame. Keno Thedford might be transferring. The loss to Baylor, falling outside the top 10. Give me Notre Dame minus 3.5 points to bounce back this week against Oregon. At Oregon, fine, but against an Oregon team that is looking bad, really bad, okay? Since Justin Creel went for 32 carries and 320 yards on the ground in a blowout win against UCLA, he had 9 carries against TCU. Didn't look all that great. 34 yards on 9 carries. What? Arguably one of the best running backs in the league. You're going to give him the ball 9 times? Not a good recipe. Then 21 carries on the ground against Washington. In a rainy, sloppy game, Oregon couldn't get the job done. Give me Notre Dame minus 3.5 at Oregon. That's your done deal lock number 2. Now, the third one, this was a little tricky. This one, I had to really dig deep. There was a lot of games that I didn't really feel that comfortable about, and I don't feel super comfortable about this one. But, again, we just talked about Oregon versus Washington last week in a sloppy game in the rain at Washington. Give me Washington. Give me the Huskies minus 3.5 at home against Arizona State. Here's why. Washington scores points. This Washington team, although they're not very good this year, they score a lot of points. And in the last 5 weeks, they're averaging over 30 points a game. The only games where they didn't put up a good chunk of points, USC and West Virginia. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but those 2 teams fighting for a Final Four spot. Outside of that, this Washington team is putting up points. So I expect Washington at home in a game that maybe the weather's not going to be all that great to put up somewhere between 27 to 40 points. Somewhere between 27 and 40 points. They'll find a way to put up that number at home against Arizona State, and all they have to do is cover 3.5. Yeah, give me that all day long. Give me that all day long. Okay, so I've got Ohio State minus 6.5 against Texas A&M. I've got Notre Dame minus 3.5 at Oregon. And I've got Washington minus 3.5 at home against Arizona State. I'm taking 3 favorites this week. All 3 teams are favorites to win, but I'm taking all 3 of them to cover the spread. Those are my done deal locks for week 11. Now, here's a little bonus for you. I'm going to throw this one out there in case maybe you don't feel comfortable about one of these games. Maybe you don't want to bet one. Maybe you only want to bet one, and neither one of them tickle your fancy. I'm going to give you one more game here, one more team to think about. Georgia is playing Tennessee. Georgia is favored by 5.5 points. Well, newsflash, Georgia gets favored by 5.5 points almost every single week. Week 10, favored by 5.5 points. They didn't cover against Michigan. Week 9, favored by 5.5 points. They covered by 0.5 point. They won by 6 against Florida. Okay. Week 10, favored by 5.5. Week 9, favored by 5.5. Week 10, they didn't cover. Week 9, they covered by the slimmest of possible margins. Week 8, favored by 2.5 against Ohio State. Why? Don't ask me. No idea why they were favored against Ohio State. They got the doors blown off. Favored by 2.5. They got humiliated by Ohio State in week 8. Week 7, Georgia favored by, guess what? 5.5. They didn't cover against Texas A&M. Week 6, favored by, you guessed it, 5.5. Did they cover against Auburn? No. We all saw the game. They lost on they won on a last-second field goal. This week, once again, Georgia favored by 5.5. If you want to throw some money on a team, maybe you throw it on Tennessee. I'm not putting that as a lock because I don't trust this Tennessee team. I don't trust Slim Duncan enough. But guys, just look at the history. Week 6, 5.5 point favorites, they don't cover. Week 7, 5.5 point favorites, they don't cover. Week 8, 2.5 point favorites, they don't cover. Week 9, 5.5 points favor, meh, they win by 6. And then week 10, 5.5 point favorites, they don't cover. This Georgia team does not cover the spread. And you guys wonder why I don't have them higher week in and week out on my power rankings in my top 10. This team doesn't cover the spread. They don't win the games convincingly. So that's not part of my done deals, but that's just a little extra. In case you guys just wanted one more game to consider, think about Tennessee getting 5.5 points against Georgia. But again, recap real quick. Ohio State minus 6.5 against A&M. Notre Dame minus 3.5 against Oregon, and give me the Washington Huskies minus 3.5 against the Arizona State Sun Devils. Those right there are your done deal locks for week 11. Go out there, spend your Relo bucks, spend wisely, and you could increase your RFL career by simply betting Relo bucks on these games right here. Until next week, thank you all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. If I don't talk to you between now and then, happy Thanksgiving, safe travels, and take care again, everybody. Have a good night.